You know, some stories are so powerful, they feel like they were written just for us right now. The parable of the prodigal son is definitely one of them. For 2,000 years, it's acted like a mirror, showing us the deepest, truest parts of ourselves, our rebellion, our desperate search for meaning, and our deep, deep need for mercy. So let's dive in and see why this ancient story is more relevant today than ever. I know it's a huge question, but what if it's true? This story speaks right into the heart of the chaos so many of us feel. A world that can feel lonely, divided, where we're all just trying to figure out who we are. This parable, well, it doesn't just diagnose the problem, it actually offers a way through it. So, the story kicks off with our first character, the younger son. You probably know the type. Impulsive, restless, and he's about to make a choice that's going to absolutely blow up his entire world. Now, when we hear this, we might think, okay, a little entitled, maybe greedy. But in that time, in that culture, this was beyond shocking. I mean, this was a jaw-dropper. To really get the weight of this, you have to understand he's not just asking for cash. In that culture, asking for your inheritance while your father is still alive is the same as saying, "Dad, I wish you were dead." It is a complete and total rejection of his family, his identity, everything. And doesn't that sound familiar? It's that modern impulse to just cut all ties, define our own truth, and chase the kind of freedom that has no responsibility attached to it. So he gets what he wants, and he is gone. He's off to a far country. But this so-called freedom, totally disconnected from love or duty, it just spirals into self-destruction. He blows through all the money. It's a pattern we see over and over, right? The chase for desire without limits doesn't actually lead to freedom. It leads to feeling completely exhausted and empty. And then boom, he hits absolute rock bottom. Now, for a Jewish man, feeding pigs, which were considered unclean animals, was the ultimate humiliation. It was the lowest of the low. He lost his money, his so-called friends, and worst of all, his dignity. He was completely and totally lost. But this right here, this is the pivot point of the whole story. In that pit of misery, something just clicks. The text says, he came to himself. And that's where it all begins, isn't it? It's that moment of brutal honesty when you stop lying to yourself and finally see the truth of your situation. Okay, so let's shift gears to our second character. Because while the son is starting that long, shameful walk home, probably rehearsing his apology over and over, the father does something no one could have predicted. His love isn't just kind, it's scandalous. Just look at this sequence of events. First, it says he sees him from a long way off, which means he's been watching, he's been waiting, and then he runs. You have to understand, an elderly patriarch in that culture would never run. It was seen as humiliating, but he doesn't care. His love for his son just shatters his own dignity. And get this, he embraces and kisses him before the son can even get his apology out. This shows his mercy isn't a transaction. It's a pure, unconditional gift. And it doesn't just stop with a hug. The father doesn't just forgive him, he restores him completely. Every single one of these gifts is just packed with symbolism. The robe, that covers his filth and shame, giving him back his dignity. The ring, that means he's not a hired hand, he's a son again, with authority. And the sandals? Slaves went barefoot. Sandals meant he was a free man. His status, his very identity, is made new in an instant. Now listen to the language the father uses. It's so powerful. He doesn't say, my son was acting up and now he's behaving. He says he was dead. This frames the problem not as just bad choices, but as a kind of spiritual death. And what is mercy then? Mercy is resurrection. It's being brought back to life. Now, just when you think the story is wrapping up with a nice, happy ending, Jesus hits us with this brilliant twist. There's a third character we haven't met yet, the older brother. He's done everything right, he's been obedient, and he is absolutely furious. So he's coming in from working in the fields, he hears the party, and he finds out his loser brother is not only back, but is the guest of honor. And he's just filled with rage. He won't even go inside the house. His reaction is the complete opposite of his father's crazy, joyful celebration. And this comparison is absolutely crucial. Because what the story shows us is that there are two ways to be lost. The younger son was lost out in the far country of rebellion. But the older son, he's lost right there at home, in his own pride and self-righteousness. His sin is quieter, colder, and in some ways even more dangerous.
And that's the real tragedy of the older son, isn't it? He's physically close to the father, but he's a million miles away in his heart. He follows all the rules, but he has zero understanding of his father's mercy. He's just as lost as his brother was in that pig pen. So you put it all together, these three complicated, very real characters, and you have to ask, what does this story have to say to us, right here and now? Well, it's not just a story, it's a direct invitation.
This story is like a roadmap for the human heart. It tells us that our true identity isn't something we have to go out and invent for ourselves. It's a gift we receive in the Father's embrace. It shows us that mercy is the only thing strong enough to heal the things that pride and anger break in our families and our world. And for any parent out there with a child who is lost, it's a powerful reminder the Father is always, always watching the road home. And the whole story builds to this one incredible symbol, the feast. Notice the father doesn't just give his son some leftovers, he throws the biggest party imaginable. This tells us that forgiveness isn't about getting back to zero. It's about a joyful, over-the-top celebration of being brought back together. The story ends with the father outside, pleading with his angry, righteous son to just come inside and join the party. And right there, Jesus just stops talking. We never find out if the older brother goes in. And that's the genius of it, because the final question isn't really for him. It's for us. Which son are you, and will you accept the invitation to the feast?